Hey coders, welcome to the lesson 2 of this module, Semantic HTML and Accessibility. You learn how to use semantic tags to structure a website that stands out from the crowd. You also learn how to use the semantic tags like header tag, main tag, section tag, article tag, and aside tag. Not just that, but with footer tag. You'll be confused, what are all these tags? But calm down, we're going to go through it step by step and you're going to learn how to structure a website that stands with semantic tags. First, let's start with why semantic HTML really matters in a website. It describes the meaning of the content in your website, not just the appearance of it. Semantic tags tells the browser, the search engine, screen readers, each part of your website what it's talking about. Have you ever reason why sometimes you search something on Google and there are certain websites that's the first to appear on the browser? That's because of semantic tags. So a lot of times, people learn web development without really going into semantic tags. And by the time they get used to making website, now coming back to learn semantic tags becomes something hard for them. That's the reason I put semantic tags as one of the first things we learn before we even start to structure real website. So that by the time you start building website, you're already used to using semantic tags. Search engines like Google use semantic tags to understand your website. When I built my first Code Dev Academy portfolio, I used semantic tag and it boosted its visibility on Google. Trust me, I use it, a lot of developers are using it, and it's working. Not just that, semantic tags also makes your website usable for everyone, including people even using screen readers. They also can go through your website. In 2025 and above, if you want to build a website for a client expects accessible website. Learning how to make websites using semantic tags, that's the right thing to do. Check the cheat sheet below. I've listed all the semantic tags you need to learn. It's already there. Let's start building some web pages. This is an example of how semantic tags works in a website. From the top here is the header tag. Later on, I will show you how to use the header tag on a website. But what I want you here to get is, this is how everything now is structured using semantic tags. So from the header here, from the top, everything that has to do with the header of a website, it is put inside a header tag. So as navigation. So everything that has to do with the navigation in the website, it is put inside the nav tag. The aside tag here is also a semantic tag that deals with a sidebar of a website. Each article here is talking about a different view in a website. So I'll show you now how to structure everything using semantic tag. It looks complicated here, but trust me, it's easy. Let's start by creating a new folder for the website. The folder going to hold the entire HTML file and everything. So here in the desktop, we created a new folder called My Website. In the VS Code here, I upload the website. I click on the three dots up here, click on the file and scroll down to add folder to workspace. I click on it. I select the folder I just created and click on add. Now automatically here, the folder is added to my workspace. What I need now next, which we have done it before, is to create a HTML file. So all you're going to do is to create the plus icon up here and create a HTML file. Now a HTML file is already created here. I've shown you how to structure the basic structure of a HTML file, and I've shown you the shortcut to use, which I'm already used to it, so I'm just going to use the shortcut here. Shift exclamation mark, then press enter, and it will generate the basic HTML structure of a website for you. So now, here is what I'm having here. Every website will need a header which is going to hold the logo, list items, and other things for the header of the website. So to do that now, you're going to wrap everything inside a header tag. So what you're going to do to create a header tag, all you need is the normal way you create a tag. A less than sign and write header with a greater than sign, and it will generate an open tag and a closing tag for you. So everything you're going to write for the header is going to be within this header tag. Apart from the header tag, we're going to need the body of the website. So for the body of the website, you're going to wrap everything inside a main tag. So a main tag, you create it just like this. So within this main tag is where you're going to insert everything. So in a website, we're going to have different parts talking about different things. Maybe this part is talking about images, this part is talking about the future of the website. Each part is going to have different thing. So each part, you're going to put it in a different tag. So we have the article tag. For an article of a website, you put it inside an article tag. Apart from the article tag, we're going to have different sections in the website. So for each section talking about specific thing, you put it in a section. You're also going to have another section in a website talking about different thing. You put it in its own section. So apart from it, there's the aside tag. This aside tag is when you're going to have a website that has a side menu appearing and disappearing. So you're going to put it in an aside tag. Everything here is going to be structured. By the time we move further in the course, we're going to be using these semantic tags step by step, and that's when you're going to really understand how semantic tag really works in a website. For this lesson, I'm only introducing semantic tags for you. And also, we also have the footer tag. In the footer tag, we insert the last section of a website. The last thing you're talking about in a website, you're going to insert it in the footer tag. So that's actually how it works here. But the more we move further, the more you're going to understand how semantic tag really works in a website. But now let's use the semantic tags to just create something simple. Let's clear this all out. Here, we're going to start with the header of a website. So in the header of a website, we're going to need logos, list items, and a lot of things. So there's something we call on other list items. I haven't touched list items, so you're not really going to understand how this list item works. But later on, we're going to touch them and you're going to really understand how they work. But the main aim I want you to get here is how everything is structured, not even the content inside, but you can further look at it. So here is on other list items. This is how it works. We have 4 list items, which is home, about, service, and help. Now, below the header, now we're going to need the main body of the website. I mentioned earlier that we put it in a main tag. So now in the main tag, we're going to have different sections in a website talking about different things. So now I'm going to create the first section. I'm going to insert a H1, which is going to be my heading. Below it, I'm going to insert a paragraph, which is going to have a text inside. So in a single section, you're going to have some buttons, images, and a lot of things. But since this is the only thing we have talked about, that's why I'm only using these 2 tags here, which is the heading and the paragraph. For further tags, we're going to come across it later on in the course. I haven't really mentioned a button to you, but this is how you're going to create a button in a HTML. You just, as a normal way you create a tag, all you need is to write button. And it's going to create an open tag and a closing tag. So the text you put within the button is the text going to appear inside the button. So now we're going to open this using live server. As you can see here, now it is loading for us to view it in the browser. So now we have the header of the website. Below it now we have the main of the website, which is the main body of the website. You can have multiple sections talking about multiple things. You can copy this section and paste it several times. Then we're going to have the last part of the website. For the last part of a website, we call it the footer tag. We put it inside a footer tag. So we can just write a H1 and write the end. When the browser is reading this content, it understands that this is the header of the website. This is a section. This is a different section. This is a different section. And this is a footer. So that's how it works. So when I run this on the browser, this is what we're having here. From here is the header of the website that has these list items: home, about, service, help. The browser understands that this is the header of the website. Now, below it now is the H1, paragraph, and a button. Because we inserted it in a different section, it understands that this is a section that's talking about this aspect. Below it is another section, so talking about a different thing. Below it also is another section talking about different thing. We also have a footer. The browser understands that this is the footer of the website. This is the last stage of the website. So when someone searches for something similar to your website, because the browser understands everything about your website, it understands how you structured your website. Now, your website is going to be one of the top websites that is going to be listed for the person to view. But when you don't use semantic tags, the browser doesn't really understand what your website is talking about. So it's not going to be one of those websites that's going to be listed for a user when he searches something on Google. Or if you don't use semantic tags, screen readers will not be able to actually read your website. So your website is not going to be accessible for every user. And one of the things I want you to take note is, in the HTML structure, always make sure that in the HTML tag, you insert a language of English.
In the next lesson, we'll dive into images, links, and lists, and we'll walk through how to use them in our websites.